Another crash diet, Emma? My sister Victoria's voice dripped with disdain as she looked me up and down at our weekly family dinner. You've always been desperate for attention, but this is getting ridiculous. I pushed the food around on my plate, trying to ignore the waves of nausea that had become my constant companion. At 34, I'd lost 20 pounds in 2 months without trying. My clothes hung loose, my face looked gaunt, and the constant fatigue made every day feel like running a marathon. I'm just not feeling well, I said quietly, avoiding the judgmental stares from around the table. My mother sighed, exchanging knowing looks with Victoria. Honey, if you're having eating issues again, we can find you help, Mom said, her voice dripping with fake concern. Remember when you were 16? Ah yes, 16, when Victoria had spread rumors at school about me having an eating disorder because I lost weight during swim team training. It didn't matter that I'd won state championships that year. In my family's eyes, everything I did was just another bid for attention. I'm not dieting, I insisted, pushing away another wave of nausea. I've actually been trying to gain weight. Victoria snorted, nearly choking on her wine. Right. That's why you're barely touching Mom's lasagna. You know it's her specialty. Leave your sister alone, Dad muttered, though his tone suggested he was more interested in avoiding conflict than defending me. I'm just concerned, Victoria said, her voice syrupy sweet. First the migraines that made you miss my engagement party, now this dramatic weight loss right before my wedding. It's like you can't stand anyone else being in the spotlight. I gripped my fork tighter, remembering the blinding pain that had kept me in bed during her engagement celebration. Like everything else, my family had dismissed it as another plea for attention. The doctor is running some tests, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I have an appointment next week to get the results. Oh, so now we're playing the mysterious illness card? Victoria rolled her eyes. What's next, Emma? A wheelchair at my wedding? The table fell silent. Even Mom looked uncomfortable with that comment. Victoria, Dad warned, but she was on a roll. No, I'm tired of this. Every time something good happens to me, Emma has to make it about her. Remember my college graduation? She had that convenient panic attack right in the middle of the ceremony. My chest tightened at the memory. The dizziness, the crushing chest pain that sent me to the ER. The doctors had called it a panic attack, and my family never let me forget it. That's enough, Ted said firmly, but the damage was done. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I need some air. And now the dramatic exit, Victoria commented as I walked away. Always on brand, sis. Outside, the cool evening air did little to settle my churning stomach. I leaned against the porch railing, trying to steady myself as black spots danced in my vision. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a reminder about tomorrow's oncology appointment. I hadn't told them about the appointment, about the lumps I'd found, the night sweats, the bone-deep fatigue that no amount of sleep could cure. What was the point? They probably accused me of Googling cancer symptoms for attention. The door opened behind me. Mom stepped out, her face pinched with worry. Emma, honey, we're just concerned about you. These patterns of behavior. They're not patterns, Mom, I interrupted, suddenly too tired to maintain the peace. I'm actually sick. Of course you are, she patted my arm condescendingly. Just like you were sick before Victoria's high school graduation and her engagement party and, I have an oncology appointment tomorrow, I cut her off, watching her face freeze. The GP found some concerning symptoms. They're testing for lymphoma. Mom's hand dropped from my arm. Cancer? Don't you think that's taking things a bit far? The laugh that escaped me was hollow. Of course. Even the possibility of cancer was just another attention-seeking ploy in their eyes. You know what? Never mind. I'll let you know what the doctor says. I grabbed my purse from inside and headed for my car, ignoring Victoria's calls about running away again. As I drove home, my phone kept buzzing with texts from Victoria. Real classy, dropping the C word to ruin my pre-wedding dinner. Mom's upset now. Hope you're happy. You always have to one-up me, don't you? I turned my phone off, focusing on the road through tears. Tomorrow's appointment loomed in my mind. The test results that would either validate my concerns or give my family more ammunition for their narrative about my attention-seeking ways. Little did they know, this time would be different. This time, the truth would silence them all. The oncology department was eerily quiet as I sat alone in the waiting room. Victoria's text from this morning still burned in my mind. Mom's beside herself, thinking you actually believe you have cancer. This is a new low, even for you. If you show up at my wedding looking for sympathy, I swear. I turned my phone off just as Dr. Matthews called my name. She was a stern-looking woman in her 50s, with kind eyes that made my stomach clench with anxiety. The way she closed her office door carefully behind us told me everything I needed to know. "Please take a seat, Emma," she said, pulling out a thick file. My test results. My hands started trembling. "Stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma," she said quietly, placing a scan in front of me. "The PET scan shows significant spread to your lymph nodes and spleen. This explains the weight loss, night sweats, and fatigue you've been experiencing." The words hit me like physical blows. Even though I'd suspected, had felt in my bones that something was seriously wrong, hearing it confirmed made the room spin. "We need to start treatment immediately," Dr. Matthews continued, her voice seeming to come from far away. "I'm recommending an aggressive chemotherapy protocol." I barely heard the rest. All I could think about was Victoria's mocking voice. "Another diet for attention?" "Emma." Dr. Matthews touched my arm gently. "I know this is overwhelming. Do you have someone here with you?" I shook my head, fighting back tears. "My family. They thought I was making it up for attention." Her face softened with understanding. "Would you like me to call them?" Sometimes hearing it from a medical professional. "Yes," I whispered, "please." She picked up her office phone, and I gave her my mother's number with shaking hands. It rang 3 times before Mom answered. "Mrs. Anderson? This is Dr. Matthews from Metropolitan Oncology. I'm here with your daughter, Emma." I could hear Mom's sharp intake of breath through the phone. "Oh God, she actually went to an oncologist?" "Doctor, I'm so sorry she's wasting your time. Emma has a history off." "Mrs. Anderson," Dr. Matthews cut her off firmly, "I'm calling to inform you that we've diagnosed Emma with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. We need to begin treatment immediately, given the aggressive nature of her condition." Silence. Complete silence on the other end. "Mrs. Anderson?" There must be some mistake. Mom's voice was barely audible. "She's been doing this for attention since she was a teenager." Dr. Matthews's expression hardened. "Ma'am, I'm looking at Emma's PET scan right now. This is not a bid for attention. Your daughter is seriously ill and needs her family's support. I strongly recommend you come to the hospital as soon as possible." More silence, then muffled sobbing. We'll be right there." After hanging up, Dr. Matthews squeezed my hand. "They're on their way. Would you like to see the social worker while we wait? We have excellent support services for patients and families." I nodded numbly, still processing everything. Within an hour, my quiet hospital room became a storm center. Mom arrived first, her makeup streaked with tears, followed by Dad, who looked like he'd aged 10 years. Victoria burst in last. Still in her wedding planner meeting clothes, her face white as chalk. "The doctor's wrong," she announced, but her voice shook. "They must have mixed up your results with someone else's." Dr. Matthews, who had returned with my treatment plan, shook her head. "I assure you there's no mistake. Would you like to see the scans?" She pulled out the images, pointing out the masses that had been growing inside me while my family accused me of attention-seeking. Victoria sank into a chair, her hand over her mouth. "All those times," Mom whispered, "when you said you weren't feeling well. The engagement party," Victoria's voice cracked. "You weren't faking the migraines." "No," I said quietly, "I wasn't." The room fell silent except for Mom's quiet sobs. Dr. Matthews began explaining the treatment protocol, but I was watching Victoria, my sister, who had spent years dismissing every illness, every pain, every struggle I'd had as a cry for attention, was staring at the scan with horror dawning on her face. "Treatment needs to begin immediately," Dr. Matthews was saying. "The first chemotherapy session is scheduled for tomorrow morning." "But my wedding," Victoria whispered. "It's in 3 weeks." For the first time that day, anger flared in my chest. "I'm sorry my cancer is inconveniencing your wedding plans, Victoria." She flinched as if I'd slapped her. Dad put his head in his hands, and Mom started crying harder. "That's not. I didn't mean." Victoria stumbled over her words, then rushed out of the room. The next few weeks passed in a blur of needles, nausea, and devastating realizations. Each chemotherapy session stripped away more than just my hair. It stripped away the facade my family had built around our relationships. Victoria postponed her wedding. She announced it through a group text, not even mentioning my diagnosis. "Due to unforeseen family circumstances, Brian and I have decided to reschedule." The responses flooded in immediately. "What happened? Is everything okay? Did you and Brian have a fight?" My sister, who had spent years accusing me of seeking attention, couldn't bring herself to tell people the truth, that her dramatic sister actually had cancer. Mom tried to make up for years of dismissal by smothering me with attention I no longer wanted. She showed up at every treatment, hovering anxiously, repeatedly asking the nurses if they were absolutely sure about everything they did. "I brought your favorite soup," she'd say, unpacking containers I was too nauseous to eat. "And I've been researching alternative treatments. There's this clinic in Mexico." "Mom," I'd interrupt, too tired to be gentle. "Please just let the doctors handle it." The guilt in her eyes was almost unbearable, but not as unbearable as the memories of all the times she dismissed my symptoms. Each "you're just tired" and "stop being dramatic" played on repeat in my mind during the long hours of chemotherapy. Dad dealt with it by throwing money at the problem. He insisted on paying for everything, even though I had good insurance through my job. "It's the least I can do," he'd say, not meeting my eyes. The unspoken words hung between us. It was the least he could do after years of sitting silently while his daughter's relationship crumbled under the weight of Victoria's accusations and my supposed attention-seeking. But it was Victoria's reaction that surprised me most. 2 weeks into my treatment, she showed up at my apartment looking like she hadn't slept in days. "I found these," she said, dropping a box on my coffee table. Inside were photographs, medical records, diary entries, a paper trail of all the times I've been sick, and she'd accused me of faking it. "I kept them," she admitted, her voice breaking. "Every time I thought you were lying, I documented it. I was building a case against you to prove to everyone what an attention seeker you were." I stared at the box, too stunned to speak. "But looking at them now," she continued, pulling out a hospital discharge paper from her college graduation, "it was all real. The panic attack, it wasn't a panic attack at all, was it? These symptoms, chest pain, dizziness, fatigue, they're all early symptoms of lymphoma," I finished quietly. "Yes," she covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking. "I've been horrible to you. All these years, I've been absolutely horrible. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired." "Why, Victoria? Why was it so important to prove I was lying?" She looked up, her mascara streaked across her cheeks. "Because if you were telling the truth, it meant I was the terrible sister who ignored your pain. It was easier to believe you were seeking attention than to face what that made me." The honesty of her answer hit me hard. For the first time in years, my sister wasn't making excuses or deflecting blame. "I postponed the wedding because I couldn't bear to celebrate while you're going through this," she admitted. "But also because I don't deserve to celebrate. Not after how I've treated you." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Beyond the perfect makeup and designer clothes, I saw something I'd never seen before: genuine remorse. "I can't change the past," I said finally, "and honestly, right now I don't have the energy to help you deal with your guilt. I need to focus on getting better." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I understand. But please let me be here for you now. Not to make myself feel better, but because you're my sister and you need support." "No more accusations?" I asked. "No more accusations," she promised. "No more dismissing your feelings. No more making everything about me." That evening, after Victoria left, I sat looking through the box she brought. Each piece of paper represented a moment when I needed my sister's support and received her scorn instead. But maybe, I thought, it also represented a chance for change. The next morning, Victoria showed up for my chemotherapy session. She didn't try to take over like Mom or throw money at the problem like Dad. She just sat with me, holding my hand when the nausea hit, and for once, letting me be the center of attention for all the right reasons. "I'll never forgive myself," she whispered as I dozed between treatments. "Maybe not," I murmured back, "but we can try to build something new. Because sometimes, I've learned, it takes something as devastating as cancer to break down the walls we build around our hearts and force us to face the truth about ourselves and our relationships." Victoria never rescheduled her lavish wedding. Instead, she and Brian had a small ceremony in the hospital garden during my last week of treatment. She said it felt right, celebrating new beginnings in every way.